The accumulation of moderate and persistent rainfall brought today by Storm Leonardo is taking its toll on several areas in the province of Malaga. The storm, combined with a phenomenon known as an atmospheric river, is leaving very high rainfall figures, especially in the Serranía de Ronda and the western end of the Costa del Sol, from Marbella to Manilva. In these areas, red and amber weather alerts were in force from early on Wednesday morning. The storm, however, has favored the Axarquia area east of Malaga. It has not stopped raining throughout the night and continued to do so at midday today, which benefits the countryside and the reserves in the main reservoirs.
Dios mío.
Any danger is due to the fact that the ground is already soaked from previous rain. Rivers and streams have already been full for the last few weeks and are setting all-time record levels, which is why several have overflowed their banks to his Wednesday, affecting homes in the surrounding area. At the same time, the aquifers are already recharged and are infiltrating less and less, and reservoirs have been opening their floodgates for days to make room for the new inflows. In this context, up to midday, the 100 millimeters mark had already been passed in the Guadiaro River, 107, and the Genal River in Jubrique, 102. Other points with outstanding rainfall are the Guadalmansa River, 77, the Guadalmina, 72, Cortes de la Frontera, 69, Pujera, 66, and Ronda, 65, to name but a few. As a result, dozens of incidents are being reported, both due to overflowing rivers and wind, with gusts of more than 60 kilometers per hour, which have blown down numerous trees and forced the closure of roads. Rail traffic has also been interrupted on the high-speed line in Alara and on the Guadalhorce commuter train. Residents in the Serranía de Ronda received a red warning message on their mobile phones via the S-Alert system on Tuesday night, meaning that there are few people out on the roads. But the worst effects are always those in people's homes. As a precaution, some 20 people were evacuated on Tuesday night in flood zones in the area around La Indiana, where the Guadiaro River has set a new historic record. It has overflowed and the water has already reached the first and second line of houses. Yesterday afternoon, we evacuated almost all the neighbors, but there are some of them who have not wanted to leave, explained the mayor of Jumeirah de Líbar, Francisco Javier Lobo. There are 3 people, a young man and a couple from the second line of houses, who are reluctant to leave their houses. The Estación area was already affected by the evictions last week. In Ronda, the rain has flooded the Pelistre Bridge and caused damage to streets and buildings, as well as some traffic interruptions. On the other hand, in Arriate, a bridge has fallen after the passage of the Guadalcobacín and several houses have been cut off, so residents cannot go out. In the neighborhood of El Pilar, in El Margen, the area remains cut off. All these incidents are being attended to by the emergency services. The Marbella Fire and Rescue Service rescued the 3 occupants of a car who decided to cross the Verde River on Tuesday night, despite the fact that the point, like the rest of the flood zones in the town, had been marked to prohibit crossing. The counselor responsible for local police, firefighting and emergencies, José Eduardo Diaz, has stated that it was a high-risk rescue in view of the river's flooding due to the heavy rains and the release of water from the reservoir of La Concepción. The vehicle, in a reckless manner, ignored the signs and the barrier, he said. For this reason, the mayor said that the 3 occupants of the vehicle have been identified and will be sanctioned in application of the municipal ordinances for having broken a police cordon and having endangered not only their physical integrity, but also that of those who came to their aid. On the other hand, Storm Leonardo has served to mark a milestone in surface reservoirs in the province of Malaga. And this is despite the fact that the reservoirs have been released one after the other in recent weeks, and are particularly intense these days. It is the paradox of a province plagued by cyclical droughts. Not long ago, it was planning to bring in water by boat, but now has no choice but to release water from reservoirs for unquestionable safety reasons. In any case, at the count at 10 o'clock this Wednesday morning, the reservoirs exceeded the 414 million cubic meters marked in the year 2020. The Guadalteba has the largest water storage capacity, with more than 120 million cubic meters. It alone could provide drinking water for 2.5 years for the city of Malaga. The rise during the early hours of last night has been spectacular, practically 3 million cubic meters. It is almost 80% of its capacity. It is followed by La Viñuela, which again increased its reserves and reached 95 million cubic meters. It is at 58% of its filling capacity. It has water for more than 4 years of urban consumption in the Axarquia. With irrigation, it would have reserves for about 2 years. More than 3,000 people in the provinces of Malaga, Cadiz and Jaén have been evacuated in light of the risk of floods on Wednesday. Until the danger passes, some are staying at the houses of friends and relatives, while others are taking shelter in hotels and big centers prepared for the preventive measure. In Malaga province, evacuation in the Ronda area took place at 6 p.m. People living in flood-prone areas moved to a hotel in the industrial area. In Cadiz province, evacuations took place in the rural areas of Jerez de la Frontera, the La Barca and Guadalcacín areas, the rural settlement of Las Pachecas, the town of San Roque, Los Barrios, Setenil de las Bodegas, Torre Alháquime, Benaocaz and Algeciras. The Port Authority of Andalucía decided to close all ports under its supervision, which includes facilities in the province of Cadiz and in the Strait of Gibraltar. In Jaén province, evacuations took place in the area of Los Puentes. Some 200 residents are staying with family and friends. The Red Cross has set up shelters for others who might need them. Storm Leonardo has merged with an atmospheric river, which will bring intense and persistent rainfall across Andalucía this week. Storm Leonardo is set to bring the heaviest rainfall in years. A red alert warning of extreme danger has been issued for parts of Cadiz, with amber and yellow alerts across the rest of the region. The worst conditions are set to hit on Wednesday. Spain's meteorological agency AMET has warned of extraordinary danger, predicting rainfall in excess of 250 liters per square meter, 1 per square meter, in the region over 24 hours. Cadiz province will face the brunt of the storm, with a red alert in place, with orange and amber alerts in other provinces. Meanwhile, gusts of up to 100 kilometers per hour are battering the coast, forcing the closure of parks, cemeteries, and municipal offices across Algeciras, La Línea, and San Roque. While Spanish authorities have deployed the military and evacuated hundreds of residents from flood-prone zones, neighboring Gibraltar remains open for business. The contrast has caused confusion this morning for thousands of cross-border workers who live in the Spanish red zone, but work on the rock. There was no queue and no traffic in Gibraltar whatsoever, just a bit of wind and rain, one La Línea-based employee told the Olive Press. The Gibraltar government has issued only a weather advisory, keeping schools and public counters open. A statement from No. 6 Convent Place confirmed that civil contingencies are monitoring the situation, but services remain functioning as normal. Parents on the Rock have been told to use their own judgment regarding school attendance, while the only closure reported is the Port Authority counter at Windmill Hill. Across the frontier, the situation is far more critical. The Military Emergencies Unit, UME, has been deployed to Algeciras to assist local firefighters and police. Rivers across the region are at breaking point, with the Palmones, Guadarranque, and Hoz Garganta waterways bursting their banks in several areas. In Algeciras, 38 people spent the night in a municipal sports center after being evacuated from their homes. Residents in the Las Herisas district have been confined to their properties after the access bridge was cut off by rising waters. Jimena de la Frontera is effectively isolated, with the Guadiaro River cutting off the main A405 road and leaving the district of San Pablo without electricity. San Roque Mayor, Juan Carlos Ruiz Boix, has ordered the closure of all non-essential municipal buildings. Meanwhile, La Línea is reporting relative normality despite the red alert. Mayor Juan Franco confirmed that recent investments in drainage systems have prevented the historic flooding often seen in the Zabal district. The main issue facing the border town is wind, with the Camino de Sobrevela closed to traffic, forcing diversions for residents of Santa Margarita. Andalucia's Emergency Services 112 has handled over 120 incidents in the province of Cadiz alone in the last 24 hours. Regional Minister Antonio Sanz warned that the Campo faces a long and worrying day as the storm front moves slowly across the strait. The management of the emergency plan for flood risk in Andalusia has indicated that since this series of storms began on January 27th, the 112 emergency call centers have handled a total of 687 emergencies in Granada. At this time, no new measures have been decreed, nor have any new actions or measures been necessary. Nevertheless, preventive evacuations are not ruled out in flood-prone areas of the Andalusian regions hardest hit by the storm and the rising levels of reservoirs and rivers. The Sierra Nevada ski resort will remain closed throughout the day on Wednesday. The serious incidents at the EMA 112 emergency call centers, which handled 136 incidents across the region today, Tuesday. Most were due to fallen branches, trees, street furniture, cables, billboards, and signs, along with landslides and damage to secondary roads caused by falling earth and rocks and mudslides. The Spanish Directorate General of Traffic has confirmed that the A336 in Anzola and the A4026 in Pinos Genil are closed to traffic in the province of Granada. Heavy snowfall has left the A395 from kilometer 32 to 39 and the A4025 from kilometer 0 to 7, both in the Sierra Nevada mountains at a critical level. The Andalusian Regional Government's Fire Reinforcement Brigade, BRICA, near their base in Jerez del Marquesado, intervened at the Postero Alto Refuge, where they removed fallen trees from the fence protecting the refuge's wastewater treatment plant, located 1,900 meters above sea level on the northern slope of Sierra Nevada. State railway company Renfe announced the cancellation of almost all suburban, regional, and long-distance trains across Andalusia, with no bus replacement services possible due to the state of the roads, dozens of which were closed. As Portugal recovers from widespread devastation caused by Storm Kristin, authorities warn that a new severe storm system is expected to affect large portions of the country this week, significantly increasing the risk of renewed flooding, landslides, and infrastructure damage. The Portuguese Institute of the Sea and the Atmosphere, IPMA, expects the new storm, named Leonardo, to hit mainland Portugal from Tuesday until Saturday. The most severe conditions are expected from Wednesday to Thursday, when rainfall and wind intensity will peak during the night. In the autonomous regions of the Azores and Madeira, authorities are also monitoring the situation closely due to forecasts of strong winds, heavy rainfall, and rough seas. In the Azores, particular attention is being given to low-lying coastal areas and zones prone to flash flooding, while in Madeira, officials are warning of the risk of landslides and localized flooding in steep and mountainous terrain. Storm Kristin, which struck Portugal in late January, brought record-breaking winds and torrential rainfall, causing catastrophic damage across central and northern regions. The storm is estimated to have caused economic losses of between 1.5 billion euros and 2 billion euros, approximately 1.6 to 2.1 billion US dollars, making it one of the most financially destructive weather events in recent Portuguese history. Prime Minister Luis Montenegro has said that his government has approved a 2.5 billion euro package to help people and businesses in the effort to rebuild after the devastation caused by Storm Kristin. Approximately 10 deaths have been attributed to the storm, 6 direct and 4 indirect, while hundreds of thousands of residents experienced power outages and widespread destructive property damage. According to national authorities, the regions at highest risk on mainland Portugal include Northern and Central Portugal, particularly the districts of Porto, Braga, Viana do Castelo, Aveiro, Coimbra, Viseu, Leiria, and Castelo Branco, where soils remain saturated and river basins are already under pressure. This is a particularly dangerous situation because much of the country has not yet recovered from Storm Kristen, said a spokesperson for civil protection. River basins in the north and center are already stressed, and additional heavy rainfall could rapidly trigger flash floods and landslides. Authorities have also issued alerts for Alentejo and Algarve, especially in low-lying areas and locations near temporary watercourses, where intense rainfall could cause sudden flooding. Coastal regions nationwide are expected to experience strong winds and rough seas, increasing the risk of coastal erosion and maritime disruptions. Emergency services remain on heightened alert across mainland Portugal, the Azores and Madeira, with reinforcement of response teams and activation of contingency plans. Municipalities in high-risk areas have been instructed to prepare for possible evacuations, road closures, power outages, and disruptions to essential services. The country is facing a sequence of extreme weather events that demand maximum vigilance, Prime Minister Luis Montenegro said in a statement. We are mobilizing all available resources across the mainland and the autonomous regions, but public cooperation is essential. Preparedness and early action can save lives, the civil protection spokesperson added. This storm has the potential to cause serious disruption, especially in areas already impacted by Storm Kristen. Residents in all affected regions are urged to avoid flood-prone areas, secure property, and limit travel. Authorities emphasize that the situation remains severe and that further updates will be issued as conditions evolve. The emergency services had dealt with more than 3,300 incidents since Sunday, mostly due to flooding, falling trees, and landslides, according to the Civil Protection Authority. The service had deployed more than 11,000 people to respond to the emergency, and around 200 residents were evacuated in central Portugal on Wednesday. In Alcacer de Sal, south of Lisbon, the Sado River had burst its banks, and the rising water had submerged the town's main avenue, AFP journalists saw. The Lisbon region and the Algarve in the south were most affected, with the rain and wind predicted to reach peak intensity overnight Wednesday to Thursday. Tens of thousands of customers remained cut off from the power grid following last week's Storm Kristen, which killed 5 people and injured hundreds.